Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of That 80s Child, the Generation Y. And my name is Gabrielle. This is episode number 4. I can't believe I am on a roll. There will be 12. I'm just saying. Sorry, I had to open up my Trapper Keeper, which is prevalent to what we're going to be talking about tonight, or today, or this morning, whenever you're listening to it. So in this episode, we are talking about oversaturation of nostalgia. So this whole podcast is based on the idea of nostalgia and how people are very much into everything nostalgic. And especially those in my generation. So the millennials and later millennials and the earlier millennials. It doesn't matter when. It's just that Gen Y area. I say that 80s child. I was born in 1983. That's where I got the name. So I am an 80s child. I was 6 years old in 89. So I was aware of certain things that were happening in the 80s. Maybe not politically, because that's not what I was into. But, cartoons and anything that had to do with toys and catalogs and commercials and whatever we would watch on TV. And then, of course, a lot more happened. Music transition, the way we watch things, the internet in the 90s. And, of course, like fashion and stuff like that. We are seeing so much of that nostalgic stuff. So we see rollouts of old toys. So they had like a reinvention of the Furby, which I thought was creepy anyway. The Tamagotchi came back out. Some of the fashion is coming back around, which that happens all the time. Fashion, like when we were in the 90s, there was a resurgence of things that were from the 60s. So like bell bottoms, bell sleeves, everybody had the peace sign, the happy face, and the big flowers and everything. That was huge. And everything. I mean, look at Delight with Groove is in the Heart. Did you see that video? And that's just like, it's a hearkening back to the 60s. So nowadays you see the big wide jeans. The flared jeans are coming back, even though they say like it's 90s inspired, but the 90s got it from the 60s. So it's just like a consistent circle of continuation. It all comes back around at some point. But there has been an oversaturation of nostalgia. Like I don't know if it's just because of the algorithm on my Facebook, but I see less of my friends and family, and I see more of like advertisements for like 80s and 90s and stuff like that, and like memes that are remember when, or the people who are like, you drank out of hose water, and like there's a whole thing where there's a whole TikTok that people are making money off of that state of mind and how things have changed and what they remember and how their kids are reacting to like them dancing to the music that they grew up with. And, there's plenty of people who have made a living off of just having lived through the 90s. I'm not saying like I'm not trying to do the same. My TikTok isn't based on growing up in the nostalgic era. Maybe I should start doing that, because I think that there is definitely money to be made there. My TikTok that I was trying to do was supposed to be more along the lines of like getting through a day with depression and stuff like that. But I don't know if anybody cares about that. Apparently not. Most people want to see something quick, funny, and relatable. And that's not depression. It's relatable, but nobody really wants to like look into it. Or as much as I think that they do. I just see a lot of it, and there's like they're remaking movies and shows, or they're bringing back the original members for those shows. While it is kind of neat to see some of these be redone, there's a reason why they were awesome back then. Because it was back then, and they had the people that they had, and it just made it awesome. It's harder to, if the people are still around, or if they even want to be involved in some of the stuff, if they're going to create a whole new character, like all new characters or all new people playing the characters, I just don't, it will never be as good. And it's only because the reason why we remember it is because it's the way it is. And trying to redo something, and I've said this time and time again on majority of my podcasts, was just that if it's awesome, leave it alone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Come up with something new. There are so many good ideas out there. And if you want to, there's like a whole pool of creativeness when it comes to authors who have books out there. And there are a lot of people who write a book planning on it to be a movie, or, you know, having a dream of it to be a movie. So they kind of write it in that sense. So if there are so many out there, and if they're not paying attention to them, you are losing out on a whole subsection of people that you could be pulling that creative new thing out. That being said, I bought myself a trapper keeper, and I commented on it before on my lives on my Facebook, just to people, and yes, they are making money off of me for buying something that reminds me of my childhood. And I know that we all try and find something that makes us happy and makes us reminiscent of a time that was just so much simpler. I never actually had I never had an original trapper keeper. I had something like a trapper keeper, just not the brand. So I got it because I never had it to begin with. So it was a little bit different for me, but also it was nostalgic because that was what we had back then. I enjoy talking about it because it is my childhood, it is my past, and I like to share. I like to share that information with everyone and people who have also experienced the same things. And it's just nice because, you know, we enjoyed ourselves back in those days. And I'm going to be having I don't know if it's going to be a live or if it's going to be a recorded one with my son, that we're going to be talking about how it is different for us to talk about nostalgic. So Gen Ys, millennials, talking about nostalgia versus what Gen Zs would be like. My son's 16, so he's born 2006, so he's going to be 17. Which means next year he's 18. I just can't. What would he classify as nostalgic? Like there are times where he's like, oh, I remember when I was a kid. And I'm like, you still are a kid. I don't care if you're a teenager. You're a kid. You're still an adolescent. Anyway. But anyway, so it is like, I'm thinking, oh, what him saying that sparked me into thinking like, okay, I would like to talk about what he would classify as nostalgic for him. What he would see and be like, oh, that brings me back. Because I don't know if it's because I'm on that other side of it where I'm his mom. I'm the one that helped to create good memories of things back in those days. And I'm thinking to myself that I know that we all have doubts on if we're good parents or not, but I really do doubt that I would, like, did I do a good enough job? Because we were dealing with a lot of stuff in like when he was growing up, and it was a lot of like family drama, the house drama, parental drama. Was it good enough for him to have fond memories, if you know what I mean? Because when I was growing up, I lived a comfortable life. My mom and dad never really had too much to, or at least outwardly, be concerned about. I feel like they were financially like okay. We weren't like rich, but we were okay. So when I would come home, there wouldn't be that stress of like, well, crap, did we pay this bill? When Bryce was growing up, that was something that was consistent, that I would have to be like, well, I hope I can pay for everything, have food on the table, and we still have this roof over our head. And if we don't, that's a problem. It was a consistent form of stress for myself. And I suffered immensely with like being depressed, but not having it diagnosed as such. And I didn't know how, like, I regret a lot of things that I could have done with my son that I didn't do, because I felt so tired when I would come home from work and, just having to deal with everything. It was just so tiring, but it got better. We had good points that I have lots of pictures of that I think are a great source that he could pull from. But we'll see. I think it will be interesting to hear his side of it from the horse's mouth, as they say. So the oversaturation, it kind of, it makes me happy to see some things come back and be like, oh, I remember those. However, I don't like how they try to change it and modernize it to fit, because it's nostalgic for a reason. Like, this is how we remember it. And if you look at, like, if you see the how Strawberry Shortcake has transitioned through the years, you wouldn't even recognize her. I liked the original one, the original Strawberry Shortcake. Their dresses looked like the cakes that they were supposed to be named after, and now they're like so modernized and weird. It's just like, that and My Little Pony. It doesn't even look like My Little Pony anymore. And then there's these people who like My Little Pony for other reasons, and it just grosses me out. It's just like, can we just have a really nice, can we just enjoy this? Oh, and the Care Bears. Have you seen the new Care Bears that they've brought out? They look like, how can I say this with and be politically correct? So give me a second. They look like somebody's backcountry cousin's version of Care Bears. And I'm sorry if that offends people, but I just don't like them. I don't like it at all. If you want to re-release it. They re-released Pound Puppies, and they look pretty much the same way. Like there's really no difference. My gunned bears that I would get when I was little, same thing, same company, keep creating the same. Like, if it's awesome, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So why would you have to change the visualization and the way that they are drawn or made? I just don't understand. Like, why? Like, what was the reasoning behind it? Just tell me why, and maybe I'll understand. But I just they don't look like, because they have, like, it's supposed to be like a retro collection of the Care Bears, and they have it like in a box. Like, I've seen it at Walmart, for crying out loud. I've seen it at Target. I've seen it online. And I look at them, I'm like, they just look stupid, okay? They just look ridiculous, okay? So, unfortunately, I didn't actually have, I liked Care Bears. I liked the Care Bears movie, but I don't actually have any I did, but a lot of stuff got left behind when we moved, but I don't have any with me. The things that I kept were my Little Pony, My Little Ponies, my original Fraggle Rock, which they actually did bring Fraggle Rock back if you look at the Jim Henson Company, and it has like the same, I don't even know if they're the exact same puppets, but they've brought them back, and I think I haven't watched the original. Like, I know they have like the Dark Crystal series. I love Jim Henson. I love most of Jim Henson's things, and I think the ideas behind it. I know that he wasn't the only person that made these things come to life, but I think a lot of things change because of like political agendas and, trying to keep up with everything that's going on, and it kind of, you lose that sense of childlike wonder when you're trying to stay within the lines, if you know what I mean. Stepping away from that, I just think that nostalgic things, and I watch like nostalgic YouTube videos. There is, what was it, Channel Awesome with Doug, and he does like all the original. I think I've talked about it with the original commercials, and he does a whole slew of them, and a lot of it I got inspiration off of my commercial podcast, and I want to do another one of those because there are so many, and there are so many that I had forgotten about even then. So I wanted like to not redo it, but do another one, like a part 2. And so there's plenty of people out there who will gladly talk about their times and the things that they love and the things that they remember and how they lived it and why it means so much to them. There's a whole slew of things in the 90s that I would like to touch upon, but I had to do a little bit more research because I read comic books, but I wasn't like deep into the comic book lore and it versus the cartoons that were coming out. But I know I watched the original X-Men, original X-Men, the X-Men cartoon in the 90s. I thought that was pretty awesome. And I think that's something that I'd like to discuss at a later date. But what am I trying to say? I think that bringing some things back and forward for our kids and the next generation to also participate in and be like, these were pretty cool things when we were growing up, and I think you'd like them too. Great. But can we not make it so that it fits today? I think we all want to relive our childhood. I mean, unless you had a really horrible upbringing, unless you actually had like you didn't have a very good childhood, then most of us actually would love to go back to have like less responsibility, playing with our toys, enjoying some Saturday morning cartoons and an old school Lunchable with a Sunny D or something like that. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. We try and recreate something, or to at least give our kids equally as good as what we had. And this, if you don't have any kids, at least the current generation, to understand what it was like. But I think every generation is trying to make the previous generation understand what it was like. Because I remember, my dad was the silent generation. My mom was a baby boomer. So you have to understand their generations. And they've done a lot of building to create what we have now. And, we've done a lot of things that help to create what Gen Zs have now, and so on and so forth, and it keeps moving forward. But I think that they need to slow it down a little bit, reevaluate why you're re-releasing something. Maybe you should take a vote with people of that generation to see, like, is this worth a re-release? And do you think that this would be a good way of, getting more people on board with it? And will it be it's never going to be the same. As much as I might sit there and complain, and like when they try to make that Gem and the Holograms movie, and don't get me started about it, it was just horrible. Why they couldn't just do a retro Gem and the Hologram? It doesn't have to be to now. You don't have to bring it to the current time. Keep it in the time it was. And I think many people of my generation will enjoy it and appreciate that. I hope that somebody will take the reins and do an actual Gem and the Holograms movie. And why don't you just base it in the 80s? It doesn't have to be, some kid getting famous on YouTube. Us millennials do not care. We want to see Gem and the Holograms, okay? In the 80s, for crying out. They're with all of their crazy hair and the awesome fashion and the 20-minute cartoons with all the songs and the shallowness that it was still completely awesome. It was completely outrageous. Truly outrageous. But anyway, so yes, there is definitely an oversaturation of nostalgic things out there. Good, bad, and the ugly. Some things are cool. Some things they've stuck to. Some things they kept true to. Some things they completely messed up and they made me actually dislike it. I hope that if they are going to put more things out there, that they do a little bit more market research towards the millennials, because I think it would be more geared towards the millennials because they would want to buy it for their children or people whom they know have children, instead of market researching it to the current kids to change it for that, because I think they're not the ones buying it. I'm just saying. So there. However, Gen Zs are getting a lot older. I think what's the Gen Alphas now or something like that. Oh my God. Oof. Just getting older and older. Here I am sitting with a blanket over my legs and a heating pad on my back because, I have a herniated disc and I'm 40, dying over here and, bitching about people re-releasing things from when I was little. I don't know. I love nostalgic things, and it doesn't even have to be for my own generation. I love anything that was pre right now. So, I am totally that market to market towards. Granted, I don't have a whole lot of money. Nobody does. But we will make concessions to be able to get a couple of things. I mean, I got this freaking Trapper Keeper. Granted, it was cheap. So just keep it at a minimal cost, and I'll totally buy it. But, at least know who you're selling it to instead of like changing it up. But maybe there's not, maybe a lot of people are okay with it because it reminds them enough of their childhood, and they think that this is okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too particular about it. But if you're going to get nostalgic, get truly nostalgic, okay? Well, this is going to be a fairly short podcast because I just wanted to kind of touch upon that because I am part of that. Granted, I'm not like super popular, but I am part of that herd of people who are trying to, play on the nostalgic minds and hearts of those out there listening and or playing or watching or whatever. But I thought I should at least like make mention to it because it is so prevalent. A lot of things out there, that everybody like wants to watch and see, and you see all of these reemergences of older celebrities who, because we love them, so they are, getting a resurgence because we want to see them get a resurgence for good, And I think a lot of older Hollywood celebrities didn't have that backup from the masses. So I think, good for us for, maybe not me particularly, but good for the masses that have like, spoke up and be like, we want to see more of XYZ, like please just bring those people back. We love them. And they're getting a resurgence, and I think that's great. Yeah, just wanted to touch on it. What are your thoughts? What do you think about this nostalgic oversaturation? Do you like it? Do you think that there's needs to slow down? Do you want to see less of it? Or do you think what's out there is okay? Or do you think that what it is just like an off-brand original, which it kind of is, but what do you think? What are your thoughts on it? If you want to leave a comment on my on my Facebook, it's like Gabrielle Cattell, the author page. You can just look it up on there. It is a page, and I can like I also have a group on there. I can do a poll. I might actually do that. And then I can like make a note of it or something like that. So I might do a poll on there. So if you see it, please interact with it. I appreciate it. And otherwise, look on my blogs. I have lots of information on there for the same things, like nostalgic stuff, but a lot about writing because I try and help people who are trying to break out into writing and giving advice on things that I've had to deal with. Hopefully that helps a little bit just to give you some like, some information. I try and like gather some things for you and write about it and what I think. So, yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will be doing another live. The other one that I did, I finally got up. It took me a little bit to get the audio off of it. I did not I cut out like the really long like silent part in the beginning and at the end, but it was not edited. It was as it was live, all of the ums and ends and stuttering and everything. So my next live is actually going to be with my son. So that will be not this Monday, not next Monday, but the next Monday. So okay, and that's going to be nostalgic gaming versus today's gaming. So with Bryce, cool. So I think, and then. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm getting these things like done and pre-recorded and edited, and I just have to, usually the day of, when I post it, I'll make like the podcast covers and the featured photo and stuff like that, and that's when it gets uploaded. So I think I'm doing pretty good with getting everything done. I tried to not make it feel like a chore. I had everything pre-planned. When I get the time to record is when I record. So even if I have like two recorded ahead of time, that's fine. I don't have to do it the week of. The lives are the only ones that are going to be very particular to time. Hence the only reason why I think I have 4 that I'm going to do. And that's if everything goes to plan. Otherwise, it'll just get recorded. But yeah, the next one will be after this. Will be with my son, and it will be live, and I will have it taken off and put up so it could just be a podcast, but it will be on my YouTube channel under podcasts, and you can watch that live. But I do not believe that Bryce will be on camera. He doesn't really want to. We'll see. But I don't blame him. It's totally fine. He doesn't have to be. I'm not going to force him. So he'll be off camera, and we'll have a chat about the games of today and yesterday. All right. Well, then, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate every single one of you. I get a lot of listens and views when I do the podcast. And like I said, I do enjoy doing this. It's not very difficult for me. I enjoy talking about things that I've been through and the things that I enjoyed when I was a child. So this is a pleasure doing. So I hope you enjoy every single one of them. If not all of them, at least some of them. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. You can contact me through my website, and that's www.gabriellecataldi.com. So that's GABRIELLECATALDI.com. So if you know my name, just put .com at the after it. You don't even have to have the www, but whatever. You can contact me through there, or you can check my Facebook. I also have a Twitter and Instagram. I have a Pinterest, but I don't share that. And that's really it. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you check out the rest of my podcast on the website. The last 10 will be up on the Spotify and any other podcast areas that you might listen to. I'm still trying to figure out how to. I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm not actively figuring it out because I have like 50 million other things I'm doing. But I will get that sorted out so that all of them will eventually be up on Spotify and Apple and Google and everything else. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode with That 80s Child, the Generation Y. And this is Gabrielle. Bye.